Good morning, everybody. My name is Alex Vines. I'm head of the Africa program here at Chatham House, and I'm also the research director for Area Studies and International Law. I'm really delighted to be welcoming back Abel Chivukuvuku, who, as you know, is the president of CASA, the Convergencia Amplia de Salvação de Angola. He's just come back from the United States and kindly thought about passing through London before going back to Angola. So very grateful, Abel, for you deciding to do that. And this is such an important moment for Angola. Angola is dealing with lower oil prices. It's had a yellow fever epidemic. President José Eduardo dos Santos indicated in March that he might not continue to be president after 2018. Next year, there are elections. Who knows? Maybe the Angolan electorate will vote President Chivukuvuku and his party into power. Who knows? And we're clearly moving into election fever already in Angola. So politics becomes even more intense in the country. Hence, it's a good time to reflect on managing Angola's economic crisis and what are the visions of the political parties of Angola. On my right here, I'd just like to recognize also that we have Ambassador de Carvalho, who is the itinerant ambassador of the Angolan presidency. He is in London and has agreed to join the meeting. So we may have some of his comments as the debate progresses. But most importantly, first of all, let's hear Abel Chivukuvuku outlining how he thinks Angola's economic crisis can be managed, his vision for Angola, and one reminder that this is fully on the record, which is why you've got cameras and everything in the room and people are recording it. So forget anything you've ever heard about the Chatham House rule. This is fully on the record. Abel, thank you for coming again to Chatham House. As you know, this is your second home here in the United Kingdom. Over to you.
First of all, I would like to convey my gratitude to my friend Alex Vines for organizing this meeting. I'm just in transit here in London after attending the Republican Convention and the Democratic Convention in Philadelphia. Alex Vines had a few time to organize this meeting, but I appreciate for that. I would like also recognize and appreciate the presence of all of you. I well know that everyone here is very busy, but I think that is an opportunity to share ideas and what we think about Angola. I'll make a short presentation with probably 2 or 3 main points. First, I'll make 3 general statements. Then I'll discuss a project that we made public in May this year, which contains our 10-point plan as a contribution of thinking to our government as far as the way to get out of the crisis, which was published in May. And then I will end up by making a few remarks considering what are the prospects for CASA in 2017 and what are our expectations concerning the role of the international community in Angola. Then starting with the 3 general statements. Number 1, we and I, when I say we, our organization, and I, myself, we do consider that Angola is a promising state. It was close to be a failed state back in early and mid-90s, but it did not. It was for a long time a problematic state until 2002, and a combination of peace and an economic boom along 1 decade made Angola a promising state. At this moment, will depend upon what we do to see if Are we going to slip back to the problematic state status, or in 5 to 10 years we can move to become a viable state? Number two, Angola is facing a multidimensional crisis. It is not only economic crisis. It is political, economic, and social. So responses to it have also to be multidimensional. Number three, we have a great dilemma in Angola. And in our view, in my personal view, as long President dos Santos continues to be the president of Angola, we won't have serious and profound reforms concerning the model of state, excessively centralized. We won't have profound and acceptable reforms concerning the system of government, also excessively centralized. We won't have profound reforms concerning the full implementation of values and principles of a democratic state. We do consider that Angola is still a country in transition to democracy. We won't have profound and serious reforms concerning the governing or governance culture. We won't have profound and serious reforms concerning social sensibility. Hopefully, we will have elections in 2017, so that's one opportunity that all of us Angolans have to create conditions for a peaceful, orderly, and positive change of government. We have another opportunity also in 2018, if we believe that the pledge of President dos Santos is true, that he will retire by 2018. But also it depends on how such kind of retirement and transition will be implemented. Then those are the general remarks that I would like to start with. Now, moving to the specifics of what our 10-point plan published in May contained, which was our contribution in terms of thinking and conceptualizing to our government. I start by saying that it's a pity because we did not hear any kind of feedback from the government. If they took it into consideration or not, even my friend has never spoken about that. First point, we need in Angola a kind of economic system clarification and reform of the mental framework. What do I mean by that? For a long period, especially in the 80s, we had in Angola a central planned economy. And we started the transition to market economy in 1991. But what we feel is that in certain circumstances, whenever there is a specific problem or context, the tendency is to adopt policies and principles reminiscent of this central planned economy era, which makes a kind of confusion as far as the system is concerned. We worry if the actors are capable of reforming the mentality so that whatever decisions are taken are concomitant with the market economy and free enterprise of the citizens. Number two, second point, we need to reduce the role of the state in the economy, specifically in the sectors of commerce, industry, financial systems, financial services, and insurance, so that the state assumes only its role of regulator, which is not still happening. The state still puts up shops and supermarkets, and, which is not its role. And it creates a kind of unfair competition with the private sector. And also, it implies, because most of these initiatives, for instance, we had these 3 years, the state put up a kind of network of supermarkets across the whole provinces, which went bankrupt. First, it was unfair competition with the private sector. Second, it was misuse of the resources, and that's not the role of state putting up shops. Point 3, depoliticize the economy and liberate the creativity and energy of citizens. We still have a tendency, or at least the government has still a tendency, of excessive politicization of the economic sector, which makes part of the population excluded from the process, from the economic process. And this is the state that is losing the creativity of those citizens and its initiatives and its energy. So if we want really to make an inclusive economy so that every citizen participates in it, we need to depoliticize the economy. Number 4, Angola still has a kind of enclave economy. And with that, we are not putting in full use the enormous resources and potential of the whole Angolan territory, which is extremely underused. There is a tendency of giving priority to the seaside provinces and neglecting the interior. We may accept that this is a consequence of the conflict era, when security in the countryside was a problem and security in the seaside was guaranteed. But we are now for 12 years almost with the peace, and it is long due to make the use of the full potential of the whole country. Point 5, we suggest to the government that we should improve the Angolan business environment, reduce bureaucracy, improve infrastructure, modernize laws and regulations. There is some steps on this aspect, but we need to move forward. Provide legal protection of property. We need to improve the judicial system so that things related to business can be dealt with quickly. We need to evolve to provide a qualified workforce and guarantee repatriation of returns. In this last aspect, because of the oil crisis, we have less foreign currency. It has been a big problem for foreign companies and investors to make the repatriation of returns. Point 6, restructure and depoliticize the financial system, particularly state-owned banks, which at this moment are almost technically bankrupt. When I say depoliticize, it's to guarantee that the financial system serves all those who have viable projects without considering to which party the individual belongs. And also, maybe the government should rethink about the nature of the relationship with the IMF and the World Bank so as to strengthen our financial system. Point 7, create institutional mechanisms and adopt adequate policies to oversee the process of awarding state contracts. What do I mean? Or what do we mean? President Dushanbe tried several times to create a situation in which those in government do not award contracts to themselves, which is a kind of prevailing and a widespread behavior. A minister has tenders to make, creates enterprise in the sector, and makes the tenders to himself. A governor has to construct an infrastructure, road, whatever, creates himself an enterprise and gives the contracts to himself. Then we need to put up institutional mechanisms and adopt a framework which allows to control this context of awarding state contracts. And also in this point, we need to give back to the Parliament its stripped overseeing powers. Currently, our Parliament, by injunction of the Constitutional Court, cannot oversee the government action. And this is a negative factor because one of the basic and traditional classic powers of a parliament is to oversee the work of the government. Number 8, we need to improve planning and definition of priorities for public investment programs. And also, we need to put a brake on the growth of the external debt. Our view, and my view, is that we have not been, we have not been able to define appropriate priorities, especially to develop those programs that have a direct relation with the quality of life of citizens. I've been repeating several times that I like very much the marginal of Luanda. It's beautiful. But what if the suburbs of Luanda have no sanitation, have no water, no electricity? And that's where people are living. People are not living in the marginal. Then we need to give a kind of human dimension when we define priorities for our projects. Number 9, we need to assume a serious commitment and adopt effective policies to implement the strategy of economic diversification. It's true that we should have adopted that strategy while we were in good times, while the oil was in high. In that time, we should have already started diversification. During that period, we forgot that Angola has plenty of arable land. We just thought, okay, we have oil and diamonds. Forgot about the rest. During that period, we forgot that we have plenty of rivers and water that could help us sustain a sophisticated agricultural sector, combining with the familiar sector to guarantee food safety. During that time, we forgot that we had other minerals that we could exploit and then be part of the economy. During that time, we forgot that we have resources in forestry. We just thought, okay, oil and diamonds, that's enough. Then we need really to now have a serious commitment. Because my perception is that there is a kind of erratic behavior as far as this question of diversification of the economy is concerned. last and not least, the point 10, we need to assume a serious commitment to fight corruption, mismanagement, clientelism, and nepotism. Part of the crisis, the economic crisis, is not only a product of the low level of prices in the oil sector. It's also because some of our resources are not really put in use for the country because of corruption, because of stealing. And my worry is that most of the entities of the state have lost the moral high ground to correct the situation. Because if you want to be an actor in correcting one situation specifically, you need to be an example. If you are not an example, you cannot correct a situation. Then those are the 10 points which were just general in thinking, which we made public in July. Personally, I took the initiative of sending them to the government to see if we could contribute with ideas and thinking, because we all are victims and we all have to participate in order of correcting the situation. Now, what are the prospects for CASA in 2017? At this moment, we are working in order to guarantee that the 2017 general elections are conducted in an acceptable political environment and within acceptable democratic practices, so as to guarantee fair and transparent elections. Our perception is that CASA is the party which is more growing at this moment in Angola. It's new. We have only 4 years now, but we are convinced that if we secure free, serious, and transparent elections, in 2017, we are the government of Angola, or at minimum, part of the government of Angola. What are the expectations we have about the role of the international community in Angola? First of all, we encourage the international community to engage. Institutions, to engage the Angolan government. Parliaments have to engage with the Angolan parliament, academics, professionals. There is a need of engagement. One can only understand each other if there is engagement. Second, with engagement, there should be encouragement. Governments, universities, in this engagement should encourage their Angolan counterparts to move forward, to implement values of principles of democracy, to respect human rights, to improve the business environment, so as to make the relationship positive. And finally, although myself I recognize that our business environment is not yet positive, I still encourage investment. Angola is a country with huge potential. It's true that it's not easy with this business environment, but those who go first have always better opportunities than those who go late. Am I optimistic or pessimistic about our future? I'm neither. I'm just realistic. And with this, I stop there and be available for your questions.
Abel, thank you very much for a very clear 10-point vision of CASA and outlining also why the international community should engage in Angola and your optimism for the next election and the prospects of CASA. I'd first like to invite Ambassador de Carvalho, if you have a few remarks to make in response to what you heard, including maybe the first time we get an official response to your 10-point plan. So I will invite the Ambassador for a few remarks.
Okay, yes. Thank you, Alex, Professor Alex Vines, and also the Chatham House for this opportunity to be here with this good panel. So good morning to everybody. Thank you also to President Chivukuvuku for his presentation. He's a person that we have been very good. He's a friend of ours. He's an historical leader in Angola, also a young historical leader. So we think that he's made a very good presentation. About the 10 points that he mentioned, that's clear that these are the perspectives of the party of Casa CE, and we have I think that I will use an expression that was used by the former Greek Minister of Finance, Varoufakis, and he said that we have to agree to disagree. I think that we have to agree to disagree with President Chivukuvuku, because some of the measures that were pointed, yes, they are realistic. The financial measures, they are realistic, because we think that this question of the Dutch disease, that is between the 7th or the 8th point, where the state was not giving opportunity to grow or wasn't growing in the other areas beside the petroleum areas. This is a matter that isn't a will of the Angolan state. It happens with countries when you have revenues of a commodity and you don't have the way opened to other sectors that they can grow. But I'm sure that Casa CE has listened also that the government has published serious measures to fight against this crisis that Angola is living. The Casa CE has published in July his measures, but the government is also shown a number of measures to fight the crisis. And I think that these measures have been accomplished. Our government is fighting the crisis, as we know, and Angola is not living this crisis alone. This is not a crisis made by Angolan government, isn't a crisis of the Angolan government. It's a general crisis, and we are all fighting this crisis. Even Great Britain is fighting this crisis. Other measures that President Abel has spoke, I think that we share some of the points that he told here today. We are all working so we can have fair elections in 2017. We are all in Angola working. The government is working. The political parties are working. And I think that this is an example that Angola is not a closet society. We have made efforts, not just the government, but also the political parties, that we continue to have a plural society. I think that we are all working to this goal, that we could have fair and good elections in 2017. The question about I will not for sure answer the 10 points, just generally just to open the debate to other people. The question about the business environment in Angola. Recently, I think since August last year, we have a new law on investment, on private investment, and we have also 2 new agencies working with the private investment. That one is the APX and the other is the UTIP. These agencies are working so that we can have more business and more clear and open business. It's sure that we are facing a transition since the multipartidarism in 1992, but we think that the most interested part on working to the Angolan to the Angolan diversification and opening is the Angolan government. We are the most interested part. So we know that we have international principles as working with IMF, the World Bank, the city here in London with the European Union to respect the principles of Basel 1, 2, 3, everything concerning the policies on money laundering, etc. We are all working on this as a government, and we can't with Casa CE, with the other political parties, so they can also make their parts. We are all working together. So I think that these points that President Chivukuvuku has shown here today are the Casa CE points. He said that he sent it to the government. I think that if he doesn't have an answer at the time, he's having an answer now that the government is open to work with all political forces of the Angolan society. We are open to debate, we are open to work, because we need to grow as a country, we need to grow, and we need to improve ourselves as a society. I have with me engineer Neuza and architect Joaquim Sebastião. The engineer is with the cabinet that is making the plan to restructure Luanda, and architect is working with the provincial government. So as Chatham House has this debate of the sustainable cities, if anyone has any questions on Luanda, how Luanda is growing, how Luanda is changing, please feel yourself free to answer. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you very much, Ambassador de Carvalho. So we have 25 minutes, more or less, for questions and clarifications. I'll take a cluster of questions to be efficient. Who would like to be the first person? Patrick Smith asked you about your relationship with UNITA. So what's your personal relationship with Isaias Samakuva? People have said in the past it's been at times a bit prickly. Have you reconciled? Would you be considering a joint coalition moving into the election in 2017?
First of all, what we need in Angola is change. But change that has to be peaceful, orderly, and positive. Because there is a possibility of negative change, but what is necessary to secure is positive change, the quality of the change. As I said already, I've been telling my fellows that our organization was created in April 2002, 4 months before elections, and we became the third political force in the country. And I've been telling you, just do mathematics. In 4 months, we became the third political force. In 4 years, then we can be the first political force. That's mathematics. But beyond the mathematics is what we have been doing as far as preparing ourselves for the context in 2017. And that's why I said that at this moment, CASA is the most growing political force in Angola. And if we secure conditions conducive to a free and fair elections, there is a serious and realistic possibility of being the next government of Angola. For that point, we have decided in the opposition at this moment to cooperate and work together, UNITA, CASA, PRS, Bloco, FNLA, in order to contribute in creating conditions, positive conditions for elections. Number one, the legislative framework. We are working together in order to introduce legislation that should change several negative elements in the previous legislation. In this, we have already tabled some legislation. We have already tabled in the Parliament jointly legislation to correct the way the registration of voters is being prepared and the way it should be done. We have also decided that we should work together in order to either discussing with the MPLA or forcing the MPLA to create a better political environment, meaning concerning the liberties of the individual. People should be free. And in our context, though it is in the Constitution, but it's not well applied, especially in the countryside. We have decided that, okay, we should also work together in order to discuss with the MPLA or force the MPLA to open up the public media outlets. In that sector, we recognize that there is a small effort, but very small yet. We need to move more. Then, this is one thing, cooperation to prepare elections. We have already ruled out the possibility of making pre-electoral coalition. No. Each one is independent and with its own identity. But we do consider the possibility of post-electoral arrangements. If CASA does not succeed to alone make the 50+ mark, at that point, the possibility of joining forces with the other political forces in the opposition to form a government, we are available, provided it has to be a patriotic government, a competent government, and honest government. Those are the basic criteria: competence, patriotism, and honesty. We have not considered the possibility of kind of a government with the MPLA. No, we think that at this moment, philosophically and in terms of behavior, in terms of attitude, the MPLA would have to recycle itself to be a positive element as far as governing is concerned. And as I said already, I don't believe that as long President dos Santos is the president, such changes can occur. We don't know if we don't win in 2017 and he retires in 2018. If new circumstances arise, one has to be open-minded and consider. If new circumstances arise, considering whoever comes after Mr. dos Santos, if we don't win in 2017. But as I said, circumstances have been geared up that our probability to win is higher. I've been telling to my friends that God is a friend of ours. He just put the oil down. We have this problem of mismanagement. We have this problem of crisis of malaria, crisis of yellow fever, all these things, negative things happening. It's negative for the country, but that way, it enhances our possibilities of winning. For the lady, the political crisis is because, honestly, we do believe that in certain moments of the history of Angola, President dos Santos was a positive factor. In certain moments of the history of Angola, I repeat, in certain moments of the history of Angola, the role of President dos Santos was positive. But at this moment, he completely lost touch with the reality. And we think that then it's time for him to go and a new dispensation to come. That's what I consider the general overview of the political crisis. Social crisis. With the boom, the life conditions of the citizens was becoming better. We were reducing the indices of poverty and human development. But with this crisis, poverty is growing again. During the boom, a small sector of middle class was coming up, especially composed by civil servants, high-ranking officers of the military, the police, and so on, and the small business people. And this middle class was the most affected with this crisis. Why now poverty is growing again? First, because we have now higher cost of living, while in the same time, salaries of the civil servants were eroded. Also, some of those who had already the ability of sending their kids to study abroad and so on, they have no longer that ability because there is very scarce offer as far as foreign currency is concerned. Then the social situation is degrading. And we hope only that this does not create social tension that could not be positive for our country. The question of the debt. We have a law that establishes a ceiling, which should not be a ceiling on debt. There is different perceptions. The government says that it has not yet attained that level, but economic experts in the country explain that, okay, probably the direct government debt has not yet reached that level established by law. But if you add to that the debt of public enterprises, like Sonangol, like Indiama, like other enterprises, then the two levels of debt have gone beyond the ceiling. But this is the two different perceptions and interpretations of the government and of experts. What we defend is that, okay, we should put a brake so as not to condemn future generations and that will have less resources in the circumstances of the moment. I hope I was clear. Well, my fellows may consider that I'm being too much offensive, but I'm just trying to tell the truth, or at least as I perceive it to be. Unfortunately, in our country, our institutions are the ones that more often break the laws, more often don't respect the laws. What do I mean by that is even if the government goes beyond the ceiling, nothing happens because the parliament that should act has not enough powers to act.
Let's take another round of questions.
And then I'll make a statement.
Sure. Yeah. I'm really surprised there's nobody wanting to ask questions. Otherwise, I'm going to have to do all the work. Okay, we have a question here. If you press the microphone and tell us who you are.
Thank you. Lilian Wan, I'm an independent researcher. I wonder if you could comment on reforms, ongoing reforms at Sonangol. And also, there's been some frustration among some Angolan commentators about opposition parties' inability to capitalize on current crisis. I wonder if you would agree with that statement and if you could comment on the challenges that opposition parties currently face. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. The gentleman there, just press the button and tell us who you are.
Jan Berthold, Fidelity International Asset Management. I've got a question on the IMF program, which did not go ahead in the end. I was wondering whether you could shed some light on what your views are, what the reason was to end that engagement.
The IMF, there was to be an economic finance. Last chance. Abel usually comes through the UK every 2-3 years, so you might have to wait until after the elections to see him again. Look, Abel, I'll ask you a question about the provinces. CASA obviously did, in the last election, did with very short period of time very well. and especially in urban areas, it made some good inroads. But how do you see yourself in areas where you might actually find yourself competing with the PRS or the FNLR or in Cabinda? Are you going to be less active in those areas or equally active, given that you need to prioritize your own resources and campaigning?
Mr. Luval first.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Alex and President Abel. Well, President Abel is telling that he believes in strange forces, right? Because he believes that the down prices of the petroleum and the yellow fever, etc., will will make conditions that the opposition can go to power in Angola. We don't believe it that way, because we think that these are cyclical crises, and they will all pass. Because the petroleum is down, but the government is working to diversify our economy. It's not, the government is not is not seeing it without responses, as I told you. And President Abel is also very optimistical. He's saying that his party, or his convergence of parties, is growing up. That's true, but we don't know if it's growing to be of the size of the MPLA. As you know, the MPLA is a party with almost 60 years. So I'm not sure if a coalition of parties that has only 5 years will be able to be of the size of the MPLA. I'm not sure that if that will be possible, but we will see that in the elections of 2017. And President Dos Santos still in the power, or being in the power, and the changes in Angola. I think that President Abel, I think that this view of yours, it's a personal view that we respect, but the will of the Angolans made sure in the last elections was that the Angolans trust on President Dos Santos. The views of the Angolans voting, the views of the Angolans in the big cities, they trust on the president and they trust on the ruling party. If he will continue, we will see that in the elections. Nobody here knows the result of the election of 2017, and I even myself don't know if President Abel knows the results of the elections, but we all are working to have fair and free elections. This is why we are working, and if party MPLA will win, if Casase will win, if UNITA will win, we will see that on the elections. The question about the community, sorry, this is my first official visit to London. I've been in the UK, but I've been in Oxford. I've not been here in London, and I've been with my comrades and colleagues of the embassy, and they told me that we have a big Angolan community here. Almost 20,000 Angolans living here, not just in London, but also in Manchester and the Northern Ireland. I think that we have to make more efforts to be with the community. But that effort should not be just effort from the embassy to go to the community. It's also efforts to the community going to meet the embassy, because we know that we have several Angolans here that came in difficult conditions. They've changed their status here in the UK to benefit from the social facilities that the various governments of the UK they were giving to the migrants, and now the situation is also changed. And we, as Angola, as the authorities, we need also that our community can go to meet the embassy and the Angolan authorities. It's not just the authorities that have to go to meet the community. Our community needs also to go to meet the authorities. Then we can make here a very good platform of working. I think that you've made a good point, and we can. I hope that we can discuss it later if you have any concerns, they can hear it. And I think that Chatham House can also work to be a good platform of social understanding between us. And the second question about the IMF. I think that what we had here, the IMF, I think that the first message that some persons passed in the social communication was that the IMF will give a rescue to the Angolan economy, but that wasn't the matter of the discussions between Angola and IMF. The IMF, as you know, has a permanent mission in Angola because we work with them, we have a standby agreement, and etc. I think that the messages were bad given to the public. The purpose of the negotiations were not to have a rescue of the Angolan economy, because we need to have the assistance of the IMF, but technically we are not in a state that we need IMF money we don't need IMF money at this moment in the Angolan economy, because we are having difficult moments, but we will manage the situation. I think that the messages were bad passed from the start, and so I think that's the two questions. Thank you.
Well, I would like first to ask Alex Vines to allow me to have a small debate with my fellow countrymen, just to comment on what he said about the time factor. According to my fellow Luvualu, the advantage the MPLA is because of its age, 60 years. And if that was true, then the major political party should be the FNLA, which has more than 60 years. But we, CASA, in 4 months, we became stronger than the FNLA that has more than 60 years. And our understanding of the value of time is not the counting of minutes and hours and days and months and years. Our understanding of the value of time is what you do with the time available. Are those who do it better? Are those who use it less? Then what counts is what you do with the time that you have available. And as I said already, I've been telling my fellows, it's a question of mathematics. In 4 months, we became the third political largest force because we used positively the time that we had available, 4 months. Then, in 5 years, just do mathematics.
Want me to answer or not?
Mrs. Concerning the reforms of Sonangol, we think that, yes, Sonangol really needed the reforms. For a long period, it was almost like a state within the state, acting in sectors which were not really related to its core business. And in some areas, it was just, I would say, neglecting and losing money. For instance, the state has created the economic special zone in Vienna. Supposedly it was to, how would I say, create incentives to attract enterprise and investment in the industrial sector. We ended up having Sonangol build the economic special zone, and Sonangol investing itself 53 projects, industrial projects. Now, I think 2 months ago, the President of the Republic had to enact a decree because the projects were almost bankrupt, to transfer in a time frame of 60 days the 53 enterprises to private sector. What I didn't agree with is transfer. What does mean transfer? At least it should be privatized, because transfer in our context may mean that those in power will distribute among themselves the 53 enterprises, but we will see what will happen. But in any case, we do believe that reforms were long overdue. Now, we do not know what the nature of the reforms will be, but in any case, they are necessary. Alex asked what is our situation in the provinces. First of all, as I said already, in 4 months, we had time enough to be across the country, all the provinces. But we recognize that we had not yet really a full functioning party machine in those 4 months. During this time, we have adopted a 4-point strategy. First, grow. And we are growing seriously. Second, transform. We are still a coalition from the legal point of view. And we decide to transform, legally as possible, to transform it from a coalition to a political party. Third, consolidate, meaning put up a working machine across the country. And fourth, win the hearts and minds of the citizens. And for that end, I was elected as a member of parliament, but decided to leave parliament and dedicate myself to build a true and full-fledged organization. And with this, I have created a program called 1515, which means every month I spend 15 months in the capital because of 15 days in the capital because of my responsibilities. And the other 15 days, I choose one province and I stay there, going around village by village, small town by small town, in a program called See, Listen, and como é que se diz? Share. See, partilhar é share, né? Okay. See, listen, and share. Living with people, listening to their problems, sing by myself, talk to government officials, and their priests, and so on. And today, we can say that in Angola, we have only 3 parties that are across the whole country, everywhere. MPLA, UNITA, and CASA. The difference is that CASA is a new phenomenon. MPLA and FNLA and UNITA are old phenomena, well known, and everyone wants the new thing. Thank you very much. Just to finish with our belief is that in any endeavor, human endeavor, especially when it concerns building a country or a society, what is important is to have a clear vision, far-sighted and positive ambition, and will to act forcefully. And that's what we have been doing all these years.
Abel, thank you very much for spending the last hour here with us, and you also, Ambassador, for coming. I did suddenly have one question. Which of the Congresses in the United States did you prefer? The Trump one or the Clinton one?
Trump's Congress was exciting and theatrical. And we were told that entertainment has captured politics. The Democratic Convention was a little bit more serious, with more ideas and less theatrics. That's it.
Well, there you go. Maybe we'll see something similar in the Angolan elections next year. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to the speakers. Thank you to yourself, everybody here. And just to remind you, this was fully on the record, so everything that was said can be reported. Thank you very much, and have a good afternoon.